Avery Caldwell, 34, stared at the Venmo notification on her phone. $1 sent to Derek Caldwell. For your grad party. Enjoy. She smiled grimly, knowing her phone would explode any minute. 15 years of playing second fiddle to her golden child brother had culminated in this moment of perfect rebellion. What she didn't expect was how a single dollar would tear apart their family's carefully maintained facade and reveal who truly stood by her when everything fell apart. Hey everyone! Before I dive into why I sent my brother just $1 for his expensive graduation party after my entire family snubbed my son's birthday, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up to family members who treated you unfairly. Family drama can be incredibly painful, but sometimes, as I learned, it takes one bold move to reveal who truly deserves your loyalty. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in Everdale, a small town just outside of Chicago, where everyone knew everyone, and family reputation mattered above all else. The Caldwells were respected. My father William was a successful attorney. My mother Elaine served on practically every community board, and my brother Derek was the high school valedictorian headed for medical school. Then there was me, Avery, the older sister, who chose to become a kindergarten teacher instead of pursuing the prestigious career path my parents had mapped out. My parents never explicitly said they were disappointed in me, but their actions spoke volumes. While Derek's academic achievements were celebrated with lavish dinners and expensive gifts, my college graduation warranted only a casual dinner at our regular family restaurant. When I announced my engagement to Marcus, a construction foreman without a college degree, my mother's tight smile and my father's stiff congratulations revealed everything I needed to know about their approval. Despite the obvious favoritism, I maintained a relationship with my family. I attended every one of Derek's award ceremonies, contributed to his college fund, and celebrated each of his achievements. When Marcus and I had our son Ethan, I hoped my parents would embrace their role as grandparents and that our family dynamic might shift. For a while, it seemed possible my mother knitted a baby blanket, and my father bought a tiny baseball glove for his grandson. However, as Ethan grew older, and Derek continued to excel, the pattern of favoritism re-emerged. My parents would cancel plans with Ethan last minute if Derek needed something, and holidays always revolved around accommodating his schedule. Marcus would squeeze my hand supportively during family gatherings as we watched my parents fawn over Derek while barely acknowledging our presence. "They're missing out on knowing an amazing kid," he would whisper, and I knew he was right. By the time Ethan turned 7, I had grown accustomed to the disparate treatment, but I continued making efforts to include my family in our lives. Marcus had lost both his parents before Ethan was born, so despite everything, I wanted my son to have grandparents and an uncle in his life. I kept inviting them to Ethan's school plays, baseball games, and birthday parties, even when they frequently found excuses not to attend. Last year, when Ethan turned 8, he specifically requested a dinosaur-themed birthday party. He had recently developed a passionate interest in paleontology, spending hours reading books about prehistoric creatures and creating detailed drawings of various dinosaurs. Seeing his enthusiasm, Marcus and I decided to make his birthday extra special. We transformed our backyard into a prehistoric wonderland. Marcus built a volcano that erupted with baking soda and vinegar, created dinosaur footprints throughout the yard, and even constructed a dig site where kids could unearth fossils. I spent weeks planning dinosaur-themed games, crafting decorations, and designing a 3-tiered dinosaur cake that took me 2 full days to complete. The day before the party, I called my parents to confirm they were coming. My mother sounded distracted on the phone. "Oh, Avery, I meant to call you. Your father and I won't be able to make it tomorrow. Derek is presenting his research at the university symposium, and we promised we'd be there." My heart sank. "Mom, I told you about Ethan's party months ago. Derek's presentation wasn't even on the calendar until last week. This is a crucial opportunity for his career, Avery. You know how important these connections are. I'm sure Ethan will have plenty of friends there, he won't even notice we're missing. When I hung up, I found Ethan standing in the doorway, his dinosaur costume clutched in his hands. "Grandma and Grandpa aren't coming to my party, are they?" he asked, his voice small. I knelt down to his level. "They have to go to Uncle Derek's presentation, honey. But we're going to have so much fun tomorrow, and all your friends will be here." He nodded, but the excitement had dimmed in his eyes. "Is Uncle Derek coming?" I hesitated. "I don't think so, sweetheart. He's very busy with his presentation." That evening I sent Derek a message. "I know you have your presentation tomorrow, but if you could stop by Ethan's party, even for 20 minutes, it would mean the world to him." He read the message but never replied. The party went well despite my family's absence. Ethan's friends were thrilled with the dinosaur extravaganza, and their parents complimented our efforts. Marcus's cousin filmed the whole event, capturing Ethan's face lighting up when he saw his cake, and the joy as he opened presents surrounded by friends. That night, after tucking an exhausted but happy Ethan into bed, I scrolled through social media to see my mother had posted several photos from Derek's presentation captioned, "So proud of our brilliant son. Family supporting family is what matters most." The irony wasn't lost on me as I looked at the three of them smiling together while they couldn't spare even an hour for Ethan's birthday. The next morning, I received a text from my brother with a link to an article featuring his research presentation, along with the message, "Sorry I missed the kids thing. Hope it went well." Not even using Ethan's name stung more than I expected. I didn't respond, but something shifted inside me that day. The hurt I felt wasn't just for myself anymore, it was for my son, who deserved to be valued by his family. For the first time, I began to question how much effort I should continue putting into relationships that consistently left us feeling diminished. As the months passed, I became more selective about our interactions with my parents and Derek. I stopped going out of my way to accommodate their schedules and declined invitations that didn't respect our family's time. Marcus noticed the change and supported my decision, reminding me that family relationships should be reciprocal. "We teach Ethan that respect goes both ways," he said one evening as we watched our son building a Lego dinosaur museum. "Maybe it's time your family learned that lesson too." Little did I know that an opportunity to demonstrate that lesson would present itself sooner than expected in a way that would irreversibly alter our family dynamic forever. As March approached, bringing with it the promise of spring and Ethan's 9th birthday, I found myself once again planning a celebration for my dinosaur-loving son. This year, however, I approached the event differently. Instead of the elaborate backyard extravaganza, we decided on a more intimate gathering at the local Natural History Museum, which had recently opened a new dinosaur exhibit. The museum offered a special birthday package that included a private tour of the exhibit, a fossil casting activity, and a behind-the-scenes look at their paleontology lab. When I told Ethan about it, his eyes widened with excitement. "Will I get to see real dinosaur bones?" he asked, practically vibrating with anticipation. "Absolutely," I promised. "And the museum curator will show you how they clean and preserve the fossils." As I filled out the reservation form, I hesitated over the number of guests. My finger hovered over the keyboard as I contemplated whether to include my parents and Derek in the count. Despite the previous year's disappointment, some part of me still hoped they might show up for Ethan this time. Marcus noticed my hesitation as he passed behind me, resting his hands on my shoulders. "Are you inviting them again?" he asked gently. "I should at least give them the chance," I replied. "Maybe this year will be different." He squeezed my shoulders supportively but said nothing. We both knew the pattern too well. I sent personalized invitations 3 weeks in advance, including detailed information about the museum event and emphasizing how special this would be for Ethan. My mother called the next day, her voice bright with forced enthusiasm. "What a lovely invitation, Avery. The museum sounds wonderful. We'll check our calendars and let you know." 2 weeks passed with no confirmation. I finally called them directly, reaching my father instead. "Dad, I need to confirm numbers for Ethan's birthday at the museum next Saturday. Can you and Mom make it?" There was a pause followed by the sound of paper shuffling. "Next Saturday. Oh, that's unfortunate timing. Your mother and I have tickets to the symphony fundraiser that evening. It's been on our calendar for months." My grip tightened on the phone. "The museum tour starts at 1 in the afternoon, Dad. The party will be over by 4. The symphony fundraiser isn't until 7. Another pause. "Well, these events require preparation, Avery. Your mother needs time to get ready, and we have the pre-event cocktail hour at 5:30. So you're saying you can't spare 3 hours for your only grandson's birthday?" My voice remained calm, though I felt anything but. "Now, Avery, don't make this into something it's not. We're very busy people. Perhaps we can take Ethan out for ice cream next week to celebrate." I took a deep breath. "And what about Derek? Will he be coming, Derek?" "Oh, he's presenting at a medical conference in Boston that weekend. Very prestigious invitation, only second-year residents selected from across the country." "Of course he was." "I see. Well, thank you for letting me know." After hanging up, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the wall until Marcus came home from work. He took one look at my face and knew. "They're not coming," he stated, rather than asked. "The symphony fundraiser is apparently more important than their grandson," I replied, the bitterness seeping into my voice. "And Derek has a prestigious medical conference." Marcus knelt beside my chair, taking my hands in his. "Avery, at some point, we have to accept who people show themselves to be. Your parents and brother have repeatedly demonstrated where their priorities lie, and it's not with us." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "I know. I just wanted so badly for Ethan to have what I never did, grandparents who showed up, who made him feel special. He has that with my Aunt Linda and Uncle Joe. They've never missed a single event. And he has us parents who celebrate every dinosaur fact he learns and every baseball game he plays." He was right. My husband's aunt and uncle had stepped into the grandparent role with enthusiasm and consistency. They lived an hour away but drove in for every significant event in Ethan's life. Uncle Joe had even taken up reading dinosaur books so he could discuss Ethan's passion with him. The day of Ethan's birthday arrived sunny and perfect. The museum experience exceeded our expectations. The curator, noticing Ethan's extensive knowledge and enthusiasm, spent extra time showing him their newest acquisitions, and even allowed him to handle a real, though common, fossil specimen. Ethan was surrounded by his friends, Marcus's aunt and uncle, and a few of our closest friends who had become like family. As I watched my son's face light up when the museum brought out a dinosaur-shaped cake, I realized something profound: this was enough. These people who chose to be here, who prioritized Ethan's happiness, they were our real family. That evening, as Ethan sorted through his new dinosaur books and models, my phone pinged with a text from my mother. "Hope Ethan had a nice birthday. The symphony fundraiser was a huge success, raised over $50,000 for music education. Your father made some excellent connections for Derek's career." I didn't respond. Instead, I closed my phone and joined Ethan and Marcus on the floor, helping to assemble a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton model. Later that night, after Ethan had gone to bed, I scrolled through social media and saw my parents had posted several photos from the fundraiser, dressed in their formal attire and posing with various influential people. The timestamp showed they had arrived at the event at 6:45 p.m., nearly 3 hours after Ethan's party would have ended. 2 days later, Derek posted photos from his conference in Boston. Among the pictures of his presentation and networking events was one of him at a Celtics game dated the day of Ethan's birthday, with the caption, "Sometimes you need to take a break from medicine and enjoy life." Something inside me hardened as I stared at that photo. The conference excuse might have been legitimate, but the basketball game made it clear attending a professional sporting event was more important to my brother than celebrating his nephew's birthday. It wasn't about busy schedules or professional obligations, it was about choices and priorities. That night, I made a decision that would eventually lead to the $1 Venmo transaction that changed everything. I decided that I would no longer make people a priority in my life when I was clearly only an option in theirs, even if those people were family. The weeks following Ethan's birthday brought a subtle but significant shift in my attitude toward my family. Where once I had felt hurt and disappointment at their absence, I now experienced a strange sense of clarity and resolve. The constant hope that they would eventually change, that they would somehow recognize the value of our relationship, began to fade, replaced by a more realistic acceptance of who they were and how they operated. April arrived with its customary showers and the annual Caldwell family Easter brunch hosted at my parents' sprawling Victorian home. Traditionally, this was a non-negotiable event on the family calendar, with my mother sending out reminder calls weeks in advance. This year her call came as expected, but my response surprised even me. Actually, Mom, we won't be able to make it this year. Ethan has a baseball tournament and it's important we support him. The silence that followed was profound. When my mother finally spoke, her voice carried an edge I rarely heard. A baseball game, Avery, this is a family tradition. Surely the coach would understand if Ethan missed one game. It's not just a game, Mom. It's a tournament his team has worked toward all season. And yes, family traditions are important when family actually acts like family. What is that supposed to mean? The chill in her voice was unmistakable. It means relationships go both ways. You can't expect us to drop everything for family events when you couldn't spare 3 hours for Ethan's birthday. I don't appreciate your tone, Avery. Your father and I are very busy people with many commitments. We can't possibly attend every little event. Every little event, I repeated softly. That's exactly my point, Mom. My son's birthday isn't a little event to us, it's significant. But I understand now where we stand in your hierarchy of priorities. The conversation ended shortly after with neither of us having changed our positions. Marcus, who had overheard, wrapped his arms around me as I hung up. Proud of you, he whispered, kissing the top of my head. We spent Easter weekend cheering wildly as Ethan's team won their division in the tournament. My social media feed later showed glossy photos of the Caldwell Easter brunch, with my parents, Derek, and various family friends posed perfectly around the dining table, laden with my mother's famous deviled eggs and glazed ham. I scrolled past without comment. May brought Mother's Day, and with it another opportunity for me to redefine our family dynamics. In previous years, I had spent hours selecting thoughtful gifts for my mother, personalized jewelry, spa certificates, rare plants for her garden, while receiving hastily purchased generic cards in return. This year I sent a simple card with Ethan's handprint inside, and a short note, "Happy Mother's Day from your grandson. He's growing up so fast, I hope you get a chance to know him while you can." My mother's response was a terse text, "Received your card." Rather passive-aggressive, don't you think? You might want to reconsider your approach to family relationships. I didn't respond. As spring turned to summer, communication with my family became increasingly sparse. Occasional text exchanges, brief phone calls on birthdays or anniversaries, but the pretense of closeness had evaporated. In its place was something more honest, if uncomfortable, an acknowledgement that the ties binding us were fraying, maintained more by habit and societal expectations than genuine connection. During this time, my focus shifted entirely to my immediate family. Marcus had received a promotion at work, taking on a project management role that recognized his years of expertise. Ethan had discovered a new interest in robotics alongside his enduring dinosaur obsession, joining a summer STEM program where he thrived. I had begun taking classes toward a master's degree in educational leadership, something I had postponed for years while trying to maintain family peace. Life was moving forward, and surprisingly, it felt lighter without the constant disappointment of my parents' and brothers' indifference. We created new traditions: Sunday morning hikes at the local nature preserve, monthly family game nights that often turned hilariously competitive, and mystery day trips where we took turns planning secret outings for the family. It was during one of these mystery trips Marcus had planned a visit to a robotics exhibition that I received the text that would lead to our family's ultimate reckoning. We were standing in line for a demonstration of a new educational robot when my phone buzzed with a message from Derek. Big news, finally finishing my residency next month. Mom and Dad planning a major graduation celebration at the Highland Club. Save the date, June 18th. Details to follow. I stared at the message, feeling nothing but a vague sense of irritation. No, how are you? No inquiry about Ethan or Marcus. Just an announcement and an expectation. Later that evening, after Ethan had gone to bed, I showed Marcus the text. "Are we going?" he asked, his expression carefully neutral. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know. Part of me feels like I should, just to keep the peace. But another part is tired of the one-way relationship Marcus finished for me. Exactly. I'm happy for Derek's achievement. Completing a medical residency is significant. But the way this was communicated, no real conversation, just an announcement and expectation, it's so typical of how they treat us. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But Avery, at some point you need to decide what kind of relationship you want with your family going forward, if any at all. His words stayed with me over the following days as I contemplated my response. The old Avery would have immediately confirmed, attendance would have offered to help with preparations, would have gone shopping for the perfect gift to demonstrate her support, despite receiving none in return. But I wasn't that person anymore. A week later my mother called. Her voice had the practiced pleasantness she reserved for discussing Derek's achievements. "Avery dear, I wanted to talk to you about Derek's graduation celebration. It's going to be quite the event. We've reserved the grand ballroom at the Highland Club. Your father has invited several colleagues from the hospital board and legal community. It's not just a graduation party. It's an important networking opportunity for Derek as he starts his career in earnest." "That sounds lovely, Mom," I responded, my tone neutral. "Yes, well, these things don't come cheap. The Highland Club is the most prestigious venue in town, and we're having it catered by Chef Marcel. We're expecting about 50 guests." I could sense where this was heading but waited for her to continue. "Your father and I are covering most of the expenses, of course, but we thought it would be appropriate for you to contribute as well. Family, supporting family, you know. We've calculated that $200 would be your fair share." The audacity of the request momentarily stunned me into silence. They had never contributed a dime to any of Ethan's celebrations, had never even shown up, and now they expected over $2,000 for Derek's party. "Mom," I said carefully, "are you asking me to contribute $200 toward a party I wasn't even consulted about planning? It's not just a party, Avery. It's a celebration of your brother's achievement and an investment in his future. Family pulls together for these important milestones." The irony was so thick I could barely form words. "I'll need to discuss this with Marcus and get back to you," I managed finally. "Don't wait too long, dear. We need to finalize the payments by next week." After hanging up, I sat in stunned disbelief until Marcus returned home. When I told him about my mother's request, his usual calm demeanor gave way to incredulity. $2,200 for a party they planned without consulting us at a club we'd never be invited to otherwise, to celebrate Derek while they've never even shown up for Ethan. Are they serious? Apparently, family pulls together for important milestones, I quoted bitterly. Marcus shook his head. Avery, this is beyond favoritism. This is exploitation. They ignore our family completely until they want something from us. That's not how family works. As we discussed the situation, a plan began to form in my mind. It wasn't quite revenge, but rather a statement, a clear message about reciprocity and respect that my family seemed incapable of understanding through normal communication. I know exactly how much I'm going to contribute to Derek's graduation celebration, I said finally, a grim smile forming on my lips. The following morning I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Marcus had already left for an early meeting at the construction site, and Ethan was still asleep. His room littered with dinosaur figures, standing guard over the robot he'd been building. I sat at our kitchen table, coffee in hand, and opened my Venmo app. I found Derek's profile easily. The last transaction between us had been 3 years ago when he'd sent me money for concert tickets I'd purchased for his birthday. Those tickets had cost me over $200, but I'd never mentioned it, happy to celebrate my brother, despite the lack of reciprocity. Now that memory only strengthened my resolve. I tapped the pay button and entered $1 in the amount field. In the description I typed simply, "For your grad party. Enjoy." Then after a moment's consideration, I added a single $sign emoji. My finger hovered over the pay button for just a second before I pressed it decisively. The transaction went through, immediately sending that symbolic single dollar to my brother's account. It wasn't about the money, it was about the message. For years I had accepted the imbalance in our relationship, making excuses for their behavior, and continuing to give without receiving. This dollar represented the end of that pattern. I expected an immediate reaction, but the morning passed in peaceful silence. I helped Ethan with his robot project, made lunch, and was just settling down to work on a paper for my master's program when my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath before answering. "Hello, Mom. What is the meaning of this?" Her voice was ice-cold, controlled fury evident in each syllable. "Derek just showed me your contribution. $1. Is this some kind of joke?" "It's not a joke, Mom. It's a proportional response." "Proportional to what exactly?" "To the support you've shown Ethan and us over the years. To the birthdays you've missed, the baseball games you've skipped, the school performances you couldn't fit into your schedule. $1 seems fair considering the $0 and 0 minutes you've contributed to any of our celebrations." The silence that followed was deafening. When my mother finally spoke, her voice had dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I don't recognize you anymore, Avery. This petty, vindictive behavior is beneath you." "Actually, Mom, I think I'm finally recognizing myself after years of trying to earn approval that was never going to come. This isn't vindictive, it's honest. I'm done pretending we have a relationship that doesn't exist. Your father and I have given you everything. We paid for your college education, helped with the down payment on your first house, and I'm grateful for that financial support." I interrupted. "But family is about more than money. It's about showing up, being present, caring about what matters to each other. When was the last time you asked about Ethan's interests or achievements? When was the last time you invited us over without an ulterior motive? This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child." "No, Mom. I'm acting like a mother protecting her child from the same disappointment I grew up with. Ethan deserves better, and frankly, so do I. I'm going to pretend this conversation never happened," she said stiffly. "And I expect you to send the full contribution by the end of the week. Your brother's celebration is important to this family." "I've sent my contribution, Mom. $1. That's all Derek's graduation is worth to me, just as Ethan's birthday was worth 0 to all of you." The line went dead as she hung up on me. I sat there, heart racing but mind strangely calm. I knew there would be consequences for my stand, but for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't afraid of my family's disapproval. Less than 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Really, Avery? $1. How petty can you get? After everything mom and dad have done for you, I considered ignoring it but decided directness was better. I typed, "What have they done for me lately, Derek? Or for Ethan, you all missed his last 2 birthdays. You went to a Celtics game instead of spending 2 hours at a museum with your nephew." The $1 reflects exactly how much I've felt valued by this family. His response came quickly, "Not everything is about you and your kid. I'm finishing my medical residency. This is a huge deal. But you wouldn't understand career achievement, would you?" The condescension in that message ignited something in me. I found myself calling him rather than texting back. To my surprise, he answered, "Derek, I'm going to say this once," I said without preamble. "I have never diminished your achievements. I've attended every graduation, every white coat ceremony, sent gifts for every milestone. But it's been completely one-sided. You don't even know my son's name half the time you call him the kid or your son. You've never asked about my career or my goals. So don't lecture me about understanding achievement. I understand perfectly well what it means to work hard and succeed. I just don't measure success by the same materialistic standards that you and our parents do." "This isn't about materialism," Derek protested. "It's about respect, and sending $1 is the most disrespectful thing you could do." "No, Derek. Disrespect is ignoring your nephew's existence. Disrespect is expecting me to contribute thousands to your celebration when you've contributed nothing to ours. Disrespect is treating family like an ATM rather than people with feelings." "Mom and Dad are furious," he warned. "Dad says you're not welcome at the celebration unless you apologize and send the full amount." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's fine. I wasn't planning to attend anyway. I have a baseball game to go to that day, supporting my son the way family should." After I hung up, I texted Marcus to fill him in on the confrontations. His response was immediate and supportive. "Proud of you for standing your ground. Whatever happens next, we'll handle it together." The rest of the day passed in a strange emotional limbo. Part of me felt liberated by finally expressing years of pent-up frustration. Another part grieved for the family relationships I had always hoped for, but never truly had. By evening, my phone was filled with missed calls and text messages, not just from my parents and Derek, but from extended family members and family friends, who had apparently been informed of my betrayal. My father's voicemail was particularly cutting. "Your mother is in tears. Is that what you wanted? To hurt your family? I expected better from you, Avery. This childish stunt has consequences you clearly haven't considered." My Aunt Susan texted, "Your poor brother deserves your support. Family comes first, always. You need to make this right." Even my mother's friend Barbara, whom I'd known since childhood, chimed in. "Avery dear, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Your parents have always been so generous with you. Call them and work this out." I showed the messages to Marcus as we prepared dinner. He shook his head in disbelief. "It's like they're living in an alternate reality," he observed. "None of them are acknowledging the years of one-sided effort you've put in." "That's because they've never had to," I replied, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. "They're so used to me falling in line that they can't comprehend me standing up for myself." "What now?" Marcus asked. "Are you going to respond to any of them?" I set down the knife and looked at him. "No. I've said what I needed to say. The ball is in their court now." "Hey everyone, can you believe the audacity of my family demanding $200 for my brother's graduation when they couldn't even attend my son's birthday? I'd love to know if you've ever had to stand up to those family members who took you for granted. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this family drama unfolds." I was shocked at what happened next, but first, let me tell you about the storm that was brewing in my family. The days following what Marcus jokingly called the dollar incident brought a flurry of activity in the extended Caldwell family circuit. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from relatives I barely spoke to, all expressing some variation of shock, disappointment, or unsolicited advice. I stopped checking social media after discovering my mother had apparently shared a carefully edited version of events, with her circle casting herself and Derek as victims of my inexplicable cruelty. "Can you believe this?" I asked Marcus one evening, showing him a particularly sanctimonious email from my father's sister, Aunt Patricia. She writes, "Family loyalty is paramount, Avery. Your parents gave you life and opportunities. The least you could do is support your brother's achievement." Marcus scanned the message and snorted. "Has Aunt Patricia ever sent Ethan so much as a birthday card?" "Not once," I confirmed. "I don't think she could pick him out of a lineup." "Then her opinion means exactly nothing," he concluded, deleting the email with a decisive tap. While the barrage of messages was exhausting, what truly surprised me was the unexpected support that emerged from unlikely corners. My cousin Jennifer, whom I hadn't spoken to in years, sent a private message. "I've watched how they've treated you for years. It took guts to send that $. Stay strong." Even more shocking was the text from my father's colleague, Dr. Reynolds. "Your father has been complaining about you at work. Having known your family for 20 years, I think someone finally needed to hold up a mirror. Good for you." These small affirmations helped sustain me as the pressure mounted. My parents' strategy evolved from angry confrontation to concerned intervention with my mother, leaving tearful voicemails about how worried they were about my mental state, and my father sending stern emails about my responsibility to the family name. One week after the $. Incident, as I was grading papers in my classroom after school, I received an unexpected visitor. My brother Derek appeared in my doorway, looking uncharacteristically disheveled in wrinkled scrubs. "We need to talk," he announced without preamble. I gestured to the student desk in front of me. "I have 15 minutes before I need to pick up Ethan." Derek sat awkwardly in the too small chair, his knees practically at his chest. In another context, it might have been comical. "Mom and Dad are losing it over this," he began. "Dad's blood pressure is through the roof, and Mom keeps crying at random times." "Was that your goal? To make them sick with worry?" I set my pen down carefully. "My goal was to send a message about reciprocity and respect, Derek. Their reaction is their choice. It's just money, Avery." "If you couldn't afford it." "This isn't about affordability," I interrupted. "Marcus and I do quite well. This is about the principle. Why should I contribute thousands to celebrate you when none of you could be bothered to spend an hour celebrating Ethan? Kids' birthdays happen every year," he said dismissively. "Finishing a medical residency is a once-in-a-lifetime achievement." I stared at him, truly seeing the depth of his entitlement, for perhaps the first time. "Every birthday is once in a lifetime, Derek. Ethan will never be 8 again. He will never be 9 again. Those moments matter to him, and to us." Derek shifted uncomfortably in the small chair. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. This graduation celebration is important for my career connections. And Ethan's birthdays are important for his emotional development and sense of family," I countered. "The fact that you can't see that is exactly the problem. So what do you want? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry we missed the kid's birthday. Now, will you contribute to my graduation?" I shook my head slowly. "That's not how this works, Derek. A genuine relationship isn't transactional. I'm not withholding money to punish you, I'm establishing a boundary. I won't continue to pour energy, time, and yes, money into relationships that give nothing back." He stood abruptly, the chair skidding behind him. "You know what? Keep your money, we don't need it anyway. But don't expect to be welcome in this family if you're going to be this selfish." "Selfish?" I repeated, incredulous. "Is that what you call protecting myself and my son from constant disappointment? Then yes, I'm selfish, and proud of it." Derek left without another word, slamming the classroom door behind him. I sat motionless for several minutes, processing the interaction. There was a strange finality to it, as if a door had closed on a chapter of my life. But rather than sadness, I felt a curious sense of peace. That evening, I received a formal email from my father. The subject line read, "Family Severance," and the message inside was coldly legal in tone. "Avery, your actions have demonstrated a fundamental disrespect for this family's values and traditions. Until such time as you recognize your error and make appropriate amends, your mother and I feel it best to suspend contact. Please do not attempt to attend Derek's graduation celebration. Should you wish to reconcile, we expect a full apology and the requested financial contribution as a gesture of good faith. Regards, William Caldwell." I printed the email and showed it to Marcus when he returned from putting Ethan to bed. "Family severance," he read, eyebrows raised. "Your dad is treating this like a corporate downsizing." "That's actually a perfect metaphor," I replied with a bitter laugh. "I've been downgraded from daughter to disappointment." Marcus pulled me into his arms. "How are you feeling about this?" I considered the question carefully. "Strangely relieved. It's like I've been holding my breath for years waiting for them to change, to see me, to value Ethan. Now I can finally exhale." "And what about Ethan? Do we tell him?" "Not everything," I decided. "But we should explain in age-appropriate terms that we won't be seeing Grandma and Grandpa for a while because we're having a disagreement." The next morning over breakfast, I gently explained the situation to my son. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements that take time to work out," I told him. "Right now, Grandma, Grandpa, and Uncle Derek are upset with Mommy, so we won't be visiting them for a while." Ethan considered this while munching his cereal. "Is it because they never come to my birthdays?" The directness of his question startled me. "That's part of it," I admitted. "How did you know?" He shrugged. "I heard you and Daddy talking sometimes. And I saw you were sad when they didn't come to my dinosaur party. I'm sorry about that, honey." "It's okay," he said with surprising wisdom. "Uncle Joe and Aunt Linda always come. And they actually know what dinosaurs I like." Out of the mouths of babes. My son had already figured out who his real family was. June arrived with unseasonable heat, and the unmistakable tension of unresolved family conflict hanging in the air. Derek's graduation celebration approached, and though I had been explicitly uninvited, its shadow loomed large in my consciousness. I found myself wondering who would attend, what would be said about me, and whether my absence would even be noticed amid the congratulatory speeches and networking opportunities. 2 weeks before the event, I received an unexpected call from my cousin Rachel, my mother's sister's daughter. Rachel and I had been close as children, but had drifted apart in adulthood as she aligned herself with the family's dominant personalities and expectations. "Avery, do you have a minute to talk?" Her voice sounded hesitant, unlike her usual confident tone. "Of course," I replied, curious about the purpose of her call. "I've been hearing a lot about what happened between you and Uncle William and Aunt Elaine," she began cautiously. "The family grapevine is buzzing with different versions of the story. I wanted to hear your side directly." I appreciated her approach, the first person in the extended family who had bothered to ask for my perspective, rather than simply condemn my actions based on my parents' narrative. "It's a long story," I warned her. "Are you sure you want to hear it?" "I'm sure," she confirmed. "And I have time." I recounted the history of imbalance in our family dynamics, the missed birthdays, the dismissive attitudes, the consistent favoritism, and finally the demand for a significant financial contribution to Derek's celebration after years of giving nothing to Ethan's events. Rachel listened without interruption, and when I finished, she sighed deeply. "I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not. I've seen how Aunt Elaine and Uncle William operate. They've always had very clear ideas about what constitutes success and worth." "You believe me?" I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. "Of course I do. Look, Avery, I've benefited from their approval because I followed the script, prestigious university corporate job, married a lawyer. But I've always seen how differently they treat family members who choose different paths." Her candor was refreshing. "Thank you for that." Most of the family seems to think I'm being petty and ungrateful. They're repeating what they've been told, Rachel said. But here's something you should know, not everyone is buying the story your parents are selling. What do you mean? At Sunday dinner last week your mom was going on about your betrayal and my mother actually spoke up. She said, Elaine, when was the last time you attended one of Avery's son's birthdays? Your mom couldn't answer, and the table got really quiet. This revelation stunned me. My Aunt Janet, my mother's own sister, had never been one to challenge the family narrative before. Rachel continued, and that's not all. Your dad's brother, Uncle James, asked whether $2,200 was a reasonable amount to expect from a kindergarten teacher's salary. He said it seemed excessive for a party that was planned without consulting you. I felt a surge of gratitude for these unexpected allies. I had no idea anyone was questioning their version of events. More than you realize, Rachel assured me. In fact, there's something else you should know. I wasn't going to tell you because it feels like betraying a confidence, but given everything that's happened, I think you deserve to know. My curiosity piqued. Know what? Rachel took a deep breath. Last Christmas, when you and Marcus took Ethan to visit Marcus's family in Colorado, Derek got pretty drunk at the family gathering. He admitted that your parents have a separate savings account they call the Derek Fund. They've been contributing to it monthly for years. It's meant to help him set up his medical practice once he's fully licensed. I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. Did he mention if they have something similar for Ethan? That's just it, Avery. I asked that exact question and he laughed. He said, why would they? Avery chose to marry a construction worker and become a teacher. Her kid will probably end up in community college at best. The casual cruelty of the statement took my breath away. Not just from Derek, I had grown accustomed to his dismissive attitude, but from my parents. A secret fund for one grandchild while ignoring the other entirely went beyond favoritism into something much uglier. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, Rachel said gently. But I thought you should know that your $1 statement wasn't an overreaction. If anything, it was long overdue. After our conversation, I found myself reevaluating not just the recent conflict but the entire framework of my family relationships. The revelation about the Derek Fund confirmed what I had sensed but never wanted to fully acknowledge, that the disparity in treatment wasn't just about achievement or choices, but about fundamental worth in my parents' eyes. The following day, I received a text from Rachel. Thought you might want to see this. Attached was a screenshot of the digital invitation to Derek's graduation celebration. I zoomed in to read the details, noting the extravagant menu and open bar. But what caught my eye was the final line. In lieu of gifts, please consider contributing to the Derek Caldwell Medical Practice Fund. Target goal $50,000. So that was it. The celebration wasn't just about marking Derek's achievement, it was a fundraising event for his future practice disguised as a family milestone. And my parents had expected me to contribute $2,200 toward my brother's business venture without any transparency about the true purpose. I showed the invitation to Marcus that evening. He studied it silently before looking up with a grim expression. They weren't just asking you to celebrate Derek. They were asking you to invest in him, while they've never invested a dime in Ethan's future. Exactly, I confirmed. And they presented it as a family obligation, rather than what it really is, a business opportunity that benefits only Derek. What are you going to do with this information? Marcus asked. I considered the question carefully. Nothing for now. Engaging further only keeps me entangled in their drama. But I'm saving this evidence in case they try to rewrite history again. As the date of Derek's celebration approached, I received several more calls and messages from extended family members. Unlike the earlier barrage of criticism, these communications were more nuanced, with several relatives expressing curiosity about both sides of the story, and a few even offering explicit support for my position. It seemed that Rachel's revelation had not remained confidential. The truth about the Derek Fund and the real purpose of the graduation celebration had begun circulating through the family network, causing many to reassess the narrative my parents had been promoting. The most surprising message came from my elderly great-aunt Mildred, my father's aunt, who rarely involved herself in family disputes. "Avery dear, I've lived long enough to recognize when someone is being mistreated in the name of family loyalty. Your grandmother, my sister, would have been appalled at how William and Elaine have behaved. Stand your ground. True family lifts each other up. It doesn't demand tribute." Her message brought tears to my eyes. I had always respected Great-Aunt Mildred's wisdom and direct manner. Her validation meant more than she could know. The night before Derek's celebration, I sat on our back porch, watching Ethan and Marcus set up a tent in the yard for their planned backyard camping adventure. Their laughter carried across the lawn as they fumbled with tent poles and playfully argued about the proper technique. In that moment, observing the genuine joy and connection between my husband and son, I realized something profound. I had been searching for validation from people incapable of giving it, while overlooking the authentic family we had built. Marcus's love had never been conditional on my career choices or social status. Ethan's affection had never depended on financial contributions or prestigious connections. This was real family, messy, imperfect, but rooted in genuine care and respect. Whatever happened with my parents and Derek, I already had everything that truly mattered. The day of Derek's graduation celebration arrived a perfect June Saturday with clear skies and mild temperatures. Instead of attending the elaborate event at the Highland Club, our family spent the day at Ethan's regional baseball tournament. His team had advanced further than expected, and today's games would determine whether they qualified for the state championship. Sitting in the bleachers beside Marcus, cheering wildly as Ethan stepped up to bat, I felt completely present in a way I rarely experienced during family obligations. There was nowhere else I wanted to be, no nagging sense that I should be performing for someone else's approval. Ethan connected with the ball, sending it soaring toward left field. The crowd erupted as he sprinted to first base, then rounded toward second, as the outfielder fumbled the catch. Marcus leaped to his feet, whooping with unbridled enthusiasm, and I found myself doing the same, my voice joining the chorus of supportive parents. "That's my boy," Marcus shouted proudly, as Ethan slid safely into second base, a huge grin splitting his face as he looked toward us in the stands. In that moment I couldn't help but think about the parallel event taking place across town, my brother in his element, surrounded by admirers collecting congratulations and financial contributions for his future practice. I felt a momentary pang, not of regret, but of sadness for what might have been if my family had been capable of mutual respect and genuine support. My phone had remained mercifully quiet all day. I had half expected a flurry of guilt-inducing messages, or perhaps final attempts to change my mind about attending, but it seemed my family had accepted my absence as the new status quo. Or perhaps they were simply too busy basking in Derek's moment to spare a thought for me. After the tournament, Ethan's team placed second, qualifying them for the state championship the following month. We took him out for celebratory ice cream. As he enthusiastically described the game highlights between bites of rocky road, my phone finally buzzed with a text notification. Expecting another family member's commentary, I was surprised to see Rachel's name on the screen. "Thought you might want an update on today's event. Call me when you can." Later that evening, after Ethan had gone to bed, I called my cousin. Her voice sounded strained when she answered. "How was the big celebration?" I asked, attempting a neutral tone. "Well," Rachel began, "it was everything Aunt Elaine wanted in terms of appearance, elegant venue, impressive guest list, lavish food. But there was definitely tension beneath the surface." "What do you mean?" "Several people asked about you, where you were, why you weren't there to celebrate your brother. Your mom gave some vague explanation about you having other commitments, but Uncle James wasn't having it." He directly asked Derek why his sister wasn't at his graduation party. And what did Derek say? I couldn't help being curious. He got flustered and said something about you being difficult and unsupportive. That's when Uncle James dropped the bomb. He said, "Is that before or after your parents asked her for $200, while never attending her son's birthdays?" I gasped. He said that. In front of everyone. Right in the middle of the cocktail hour, Rachel confirmed with a hint of satisfaction in her voice. Your mother tried to change the subject, but Aunt Janet chimed in, asking about this Derek fund everyone had been hearing about and whether there was a similar fund for your son. The image of my typically reserved extended family confronting my parents about their favoritism in the middle of their carefully orchestrated event was both shocking and vindicating. What happened then? I asked. Your dad got very red in the face and announced it was time for dinner. The subject changed, but the damage was done. People were whispering throughout the meal, and I overheard several guests commenting on the family tension. Even some of your father's colleagues seemed uncomfortable. After thanking Rachel for the update, I sat in quiet reflection. I hadn't intended to disrupt Derek's celebration, but it seemed the truth had a way of surfacing despite my parents' efforts to control the narrative. Part of me felt sorry for Derek today should have been solely about celebrating his achievement, not dealing with family drama. But another part recognized that he had been complicit in the dynamic for years, happy to accept the preferential treatment while dismissing my concerns. The weeks following the celebration brought an unexpected development. While my parents maintained their silence, apparently committed to the family severance they had declared, other relatives began reaching out with increasing frequency. Aunt Janet invited us to her lake house for a weekend. Uncle James sent Ethan a set of professional baseball cards, with a note expressing regret for missing so many of his birthdays. Even some of my cousins who had initially criticized my $1 statement began sending tentative messages of reconciliation. It was as if the confrontation at Derek's party had pierced a bubble of pretense that had surrounded our family for years. With the favoritism and financial manipulation exposed, many relatives seemed to be re-evaluating their own positions and relationships within the extended family structure. 1 month after the celebration, I received a text from Derek that surprised me with its brevity and tone. We should talk. Coffee next week. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a cafe, halfway between my school and the hospital where he worked. When I arrived, he was already there, looking uncharacteristically subdued in casual clothes, rather than his usual professional attire. Thanks for coming, he began, awkwardly, after we had both gotten our drinks. What's on your mind, Derek? I asked directly, not wanting to engage in small talk. He stared into his coffee cup. Things didn't go well after you left the family, he said finally. Mom and Dad are still acting like you committed some unforgivable sin, but the rest of the family isn't exactly rallying around them the way they expected. I heard there was some discussion at your celebration, I acknowledged. He grimaced. That's putting it mildly. Uncle James practically accused Mom and Dad of financial favoritism in front of everyone, including the hospital director and several potential investors in my practice. I felt a twinge of sympathy. That must have been uncomfortable for you. I'm sorry your day was disrupted. Derek looked up, surprise evident in his expression. You're sorry. After everything that happened, I shrugged. Your graduation is a genuine achievement, Derek. You worked hard for it. Whatever issues I have with how our family operates, I never wanted to take away from that accomplishment. Something shifted in his face, a softening I hadn't seen in years. That's surprisingly mature of you. I'm a mother and a teacher, Derek. Maturity is part of the job description. He nodded slowly. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about Ethan. About how I've been as an uncle. Or rather, how I haven't been much of one at all. This admission, however small, was unprecedented from my brother. I waited, allowing him space to continue. I don't know anything about him, Derek confessed. Not his interests, not his personality, nothing. And that's on me. I've been so focused on my own path that I never considered what I was missing. It's not too late, I offered cautiously. Ethan is still young. Kids are remarkably forgiving if you make a genuine effort. Derek looked directly at me. Would you be willing to give me a chance to get to know him? Maybe I could come to one of his baseball games or something. The request was so unexpected that I found myself momentarily speechless. After years of dismissing my son's existence, except as an occasional afterthought, my brother was actually asking to be part of his life. I'd be open to that, I said finally. But Derek, it has to be a real commitment, not a one-time appearance to ease your conscience. Ethan has had enough disappointment from our side of the family. I understand, he nodded solemnly. And what about Mom and Dad? Do you think you'll ever reconcile with them? I considered the question carefully. That depends on them. I'm not closing any doors permanently, but I can't go back to the old dynamic. If they ever want a relationship with me and my family, it has to be based on mutual respect, not conditional approval. Derek seemed to absorb this, tapping his fingers thoughtfully against his cup. For what it's worth, he said after a moment, I think your $1 message got through in a way that years of conversations never did. It was jarring enough to make some of us finally pay attention. We parted with a tentative plan for Derek to attend Ethan's upcoming state championship game. I drove home feeling a cautious optimism, not about an instant family healing, but about the possibility of healthier relationships moving forward, at least with some family members. True to his word, Derek showed up at Ethan's championship game 2 weeks later. He arrived early, somewhat awkwardly, carrying a new baseball glove as a gift. Ethan was initially shy around this virtual stranger who was supposedly his uncle. But Derek made a genuine effort asking about his position on the team and listening attentively to Ethan's detailed explanation of his batting strategy. When Ethan hit a double that helped secure his team's victory, Derek cheered as loudly as any of us. Afterwards, he asked if he could treat us all to dinner to celebrate. Over pizza, he and Ethan discovered a shared interest in space exploration that none of us had known about, leading to an animated discussion about recent Mars rover discoveries. As for my parents, the family severance remained in effect. I had received no communication from them since my father's formal email, and while I occasionally felt pangs of sadness about the estrangement, I no longer felt the desperate need for their approval that had defined so much of my life. 6 months after the $1 Venmo transaction that changed everything, I received an unexpected envelope in the mail. Inside was a check for $2,200, and a brief note in my father's handwriting, "Your contribution to Ethan's college fund. Family supporting family." There was no apology, no acknowledgement of past behavior, just this tangible gesture that suggested perhaps a door left slightly ajar. I deposited the check into Ethan's education savings account without comment or response, understanding that in my father's world, this was as close to an admission of wrongdoing as I was likely to get. The journey of standing up for myself and my family had been difficult and at times painful. The complete healing of family wounds would take time, years perhaps, if it happened at all. But through the process I had discovered something invaluable, the strength to define family on my own terms, to recognize that true family is built on actions rather than obligations, on consistent love rather than conditional approval. In sending that symbolic $1, I had somehow received something far more valuable in return. The freedom to prioritize the family that truly mattered, the one that showed up day after day in all the ways that counted. So that's my story, everyone, how sending just $1 revealed who really deserved a place in our lives. If you've ever had to make tough decisions about family relationships, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Has family karma ever come around in your life? Did you ever have to set boundaries with loved ones who took you for granted? Please like this video if my story resonated with you. Subscribe to hear more real-life family experiences and share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to stand up for themselves and their children. Thank you all for listening to my family revenge story and the valuable lessons it taught me. Sometimes the family you choose is more precious than the family you're born into. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember that true family shows up when it matters.